Tomorrow's severe weather threat is getting serious, and I need our complete focus on this right now because the window for preparation is closing fast. We're not talking about a marginal risk that might produce a couple of isolated storms and call it a day. We are talking about an enhanced risk of severe weather that has the potential to produce strong and violent tornadoes, giant hail, and destructive damaging winds across a corridor that has tens of millions of people living inside of it. The Storm Prediction Center is not messing around with this setup, and neither am I. So let us get right into it and break down exactly what is coming, who is most at risk, and what you need to be doing right now to make sure you and your family are prepared before tomorrow arrives. Let me start by breaking down the severe weather threat for tomorrow, because this is where our complete focus needs to be today. We have got an enhanced risk of severe storms stretching across a significant portion of the central United States, and both the Midwest and the Southern Plains are included in this. 10 million people are sitting inside that enhanced risk right now, and both areas carry the potential for strong tornadoes. Now, the primary threat zone that I am most concerned about is going to stretch from central Illinois down through northwest Indiana, directly impacting cities like Chicago, Springfield, Peoria, Bloomington, Joliet, and back through areas between Valparaiso and Logansport in Indiana toward Quincy. That is your primary threat area. And the reason I am calling it that is because this is where we have the 10% hatched tornado risk. That hatching means strong tornadoes, EF2 or greater, are a real possibility tomorrow. We have got a 2% probability in the green, 5% in the brown, and 10% in the yellow, with that hatching overlaid on top of it. When you see that combination, you have to take it seriously. Now we also have that same hatched risk down in the Dallas-Fort Worth region, stretching down toward San Angelo, and the probability there sits at 5%. And I want to say something really important here that I said the other day, and I am going to keep saying it. Probability percentages are not the whole story. We had a 2% probability in Michigan not long ago, and we watched a deadly EF3 tornado tear through that area, so please do not look at a 5% probability and think that means you're mostly safe. Any hatched risk area on a Storm Prediction Center outlook deserves your full attention regardless of what the exact percentage number says. Keep that in mind as we continue to talk about the threat for large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes across all of these regions tomorrow. Now let me explain why this setup is as dangerous as it is, because I think understanding the meteorology here really helps people appreciate why we are so concerned. We are going to have a warm front lifting northward across the region tomorrow, particularly up there in Illinois and Indiana, right around the Chicago area. And we are going to have near record heat and surging Gulf moisture combining to create extreme atmospheric instability across the warm sector. Temperatures are going to be in the low to mid 80s around Springfield, Illinois, during the peak heating of the day tomorrow. From Dallas and Houston all the way up toward Chicago, we are going to be sitting near 80 degrees. But here is the thing. Up around Chicago itself, temperatures are going to be hovering around 30 to 40 degrees all day. That is an extreme temperature difference packed into a very small geographic area. And that boundary, right, there's exactly what we do not want these storms to get a hold of. Because when they do, the results can be catastrophic. When you put thermodynamic profiles like this on top of low-level wind shear, the atmosphere literally becomes perfectly primed for rotating supercells. And that is exactly what we are going to have tomorrow. And it is not just the heat. The moisture sector tomorrow is anomalously wide and fat. I talked about this yesterday. That warm sector is just enormous, and it is loaded with Gulf moisture way out in front of the cold front. So along that warm front, there are going to be so many opportunities for storms to pop up, and every single one of them is going to have plenty of energy to work with. Most of the time in storm systems like this, you get these little blips that pop up 100 miles east of the cold front, and they fizzle out because they have no convective available potential energy and no dew points to work with. That is not going to be the case tomorrow. As long as storms form tomorrow, there are going to be serious problems. The only saving grace for us is going to be if convective inhibition keeps storms from firing in the first place. That would be one failure mode. Another failure mode is that maybe the storms do not root up properly on that warm front and they become mostly hailers instead of tornado producers. And look, giant monster hail at night is still a massive problem. But I am very concerned about what happens if those storms do get their act together across Illinois and Indiana tomorrow night. And I also do not want anybody sleeping on the threat down in Texas around Dallas and points west. Those storms are going to be dangerous too, even if the tornado threat there is somewhat lower than what we are looking at further north. Let me talk about the significant tornado parameter values, because this is really where the picture becomes crystal clear. If you look at the significant tornado parameter across the primary threat zone, it is very easy to see which area is most primed for tornadoes tomorrow. Around Peoria, Illinois, At 8 in the evening tomorrow, we are looking at significant tornado parameter values of around 5. 5 is a high number. That is a number that gets your attention. And then as we get toward 10 in the evening, those values could be climbing toward 8 and possibly even higher in isolated pockets. Now look, you can have high significant tornado parameter values and nothing happen. That is always possible. But if a storm pops up inside of that parameter space, it is going to take full advantage of those conditions, and it is going to have a very high probability of producing destructive hail and significant tornadoes. Numbers that high this time of year, this far north, are not something we see every day. This is a genuinely dangerous setup, and everybody inside that threat area needs to be treating it that way. And before we go any further, I want to shout out today's sponsor, because honestly, this one is perfectly timed, given everything we are talking about right now. Look, we all have that one thing sitting on our to-do list that we just keep putting off. For a lot of people, it is finally making that doctor's appointment. You know how it goes. You wake up, something feels off. You push through it, because actually booking an appointment feels like a whole separate job. Calling around, sitting on hold, wondering if they even take your insurance, trying to figure out if the reviews are real. It is a hassle, and most of us just avoid it. That is exactly why I want to talk about ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a completely free app and website where you can find and book top-rated doctors, filter specifically for doctors who take your insurance, and read verified reviews from real patients so you are not going in blind. You can often open the app and get in to see somebody within 24 hours. What a time to be alive. Honestly, be kind to yourself this year. Visit ZocDoc.com or Ryan Halliall to find and instantly book an appointment with a top-rated in-network doctor today. There's a link at the top of the description. You are going to love it. Now let us get back into the forecast. The most dangerous window tomorrow is going to open up during the late afternoon, and it is going to rapidly escalate between 4 and 7 in the evening. But here is what concerns me most about tomorrow's setup, and I want to be very direct about this. The threat is going to continue pushing eastward into the overnight hours, which makes this a dangerous after-dark event. And after-dark severe weather events are some of the most deadly situations we deal with in this business because people are asleep. You cannot see a tornado coming in the dark. You cannot look out your window and see rotation in a thunderstorm at midnight. Your only warning is going to come from your weather radio, your phone alerts, or y'all call. We are going to be live throughout the entire event tomorrow, and we are going to be tracking every single storm in real time. But please do not rely on the live stream as your only source of warnings. Make sure you have something that will physically wake you up if you are asleep when a tornado warning is issued for your county. A weather radio on your nightstand set to loud is ideal. Y'all Call will actually call you on the phone for the most extreme alerts. You can sign up at y'allcall.app. But whatever you use, make sure it works and make sure it is active before you go to sleep tomorrow night. And the data suggests that at least a couple of these supercells could produce EF2 or stronger tornadoes. Do not be scared. Be prepared. Know exactly where you're going to go and what you're going to do when that warning comes through, because tomorrow night it very well might. Now let me talk about what happens on Wednesday, because the severe weather threat does not just disappear after tomorrow. It actually picks up in a different way and moves east. On Wednesday, we are going to be looking at a large and widespread damaging wind event from Cleveland and Pittsburgh all the way down through Memphis and Jackson. The tornado threat on Wednesday looks less impressive than tomorrow, but people across the Ohio Valley and the Mid-South are under a slight risk of severe weather. That includes everything from Arkansas and Texas all the way through Memphis, Nashville, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh. We are not expecting the same intensity of supercells on Wednesday. We are not expecting the same tornado threat. But here's the thing. I actually think more people are going to be negatively impacted by severe weather on Wednesday than tomorrow, simply because of the geographic size of that wind threat. We are going to have a lot of downed trees, a lot of power lines coming down, a lot of people waking up Thursday morning without electricity. And we absolutely cannot rule out an embedded tornado or two from rogue supercells that fire out in front of the main squall line, because that warm sector is still going to be pretty wide and fat, even as we get into Wednesday. The storms on Wednesday are going to be ongoing through the morning hours, and then they will push east through the day and into the evening. That sweeping cold front is going to be crashing into an unseasonably warm and moist air mass with temperatures in the 70s and 80s and dew points in the 60s and 70s, reaching all the way up into southern Pennsylvania. And as that line gets pushed further east, it is going to get more squished and linear, and the primary hazard is going to be straight-line damaging winds. But do not roll out an embedded tornado or two from one of those rogue supercells going out in front of the line. For folks in Memphis and Nashville, this is going to feel like a rapid continuation of a very active, severe weather. Stretch. Millions of people are going to have their Wednesday interrupted by severe thunderstorm warnings. Make sure your weather radio is turned up loud on Wednesday as well. We will likely be live on Wednesday too, so make sure that notification bell is on. Also want to flag the flash flooding threat that comes along with all of this, because when you have thunderstorms repeatedly hitting the same areas, the rain adds up fast. We are particularly concerned about flash flooding from Missouri into Kentucky and up through southern Illinois and Indiana. If your area just dealt with flooding recently, the ground is still somewhat saturated, and it is not going to take much additional rainfall to push things over the edge. Please pay attention to those flash flood warnings just as much as you pay attention to the tornado and severe thunderstorm warnings. And up across Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, Wisconsin, and into southern Canada, we are also watching a potential ice storm that could be significant for our friends in Michigan, Ontario, and southern Quebec. Up to a quarter-inch of ice is possible in some of those areas, which could cause power outages. Heavy snow north of the ice line as well. And then we have a pretty nasty clipper system coming down Friday into Saturday for the Great Lakes and Northeast. So we are going to be going from record warmth to below average temperatures very quickly after this storm system clears out. It is going to be a dramatic pattern change, and we will talk more about the cold and the snow once we get through the tornado threat tomorrow night. Bottom line, tomorrow is a serious, severe weather day. Enhanced risk across the Midwest and Southern Plains, 10 million people in the threat zone, hatched tornado risk across central Illinois and Northwest. Indiana, with significant tornado parameter values that could reach 8 to 8.5 around Peoria by 10 tomorrow night. EF2, or stronger tornadoes possible. Giant hail possible in Texas in excess of baseball size. Dangerous after-dark event that is going to require you to have reliable ways to receive warnings while you're sleeping. Wednesday brings a widespread damaging wind event from the Ohio Valley to the Mid-South, with millions more people impacted. Flash flooding. Concerns across Missouri, Kentucky, Illinois, and Indiana both days. Make sure you are subscribed, make sure that notification bell is on, and make sure you tune in tomorrow because we are going to be live all day and into the night tracking every single storm in real time. Check out YBot in the meantime because YBot is live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we'll let you know when the weather intensity score is climbing and when we are about to go live. That is pretty much all the weather talk I have for you today. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.